Well, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. The conversation begins even before you came back from the break. Listen, let me introduce my guest one more time. Dr. Alfred Mutua is here, Governor for Machakos. Dr. Kimani Wamatangi, Senator Kiambu, and Majority Whip is also here with us in studio. And Dr. Boni Halwale, former Senator for Kakamega. We talk about everything here, from the dailies to the political situation. You can tweet at Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Gentlemen, let's start with the Daily Nation really quick. Prisons purge. We see retired KDF brigadier sworn in after crisis meeting at State House to take charge. Dr. Mutua, I'll start with you here. Is this a sign of much deeper problems? As does changing the top influence the rot in the prisons department?
Thank you very much. I want to begin by saying jambo to our listeners and our viewers from all over the world, and say it's a great day that we are alive here as they do the purge. One of the things that I know about government, having served for a long time, one of the things that I know about my friend Uhuru Kenyatta is that he's reluctant to fire people. It happened with Moi Kibaki. When you're in a government position of high power, you don't just fire people out of a whim. That person has to have accumulated a lot of mistakes, or there has to be so many other problems that makes it easy for you to fire that person. So for me, this action that was taken by Uhuru Kenyatta means that it was due. It was basically overdue. Because when people break out of prison, it is not necessarily the responsibility of the police commission or the prison commissioner general, whatever it is, at that high level. Mistakes would have been done below here. But there seems to have been a track of incompetence that ran through the ranks for President Uhuru Kenyatta to fire the Commissioner General Wycliffe Ogalo. So that's my take. Yeah. And it just shows that this is not the first break out of prison that we've seen. We've seen a few that have happened in the last few months across the country. So there must be a systemic failure. One, before it happened. Two, the reaction after it happened. And it's marks of also cover-up, because you see we've got people who've been arrested, so I don't talk about the case, so that I don't want to be accused of discussing a case that is in court. But usually an escape from prison is usually done with the collusion of prison wardens. Okay. Usually. It usually doesn't just happen like that. Everywhere, even in the movies when you watch, somebody somewhere has colluded. And it's very dangerous, because the people who escaped from prison, first of all, are not just what you'd call, quote unquote, petty thieves. These are people who have been convicted of terror acts. These are people who've been convicted of killing our children, our youth in Garissa during the terrorist attack. These are murderers. I mean, this is as worse as it gets. Number two, my question is also, I don't understand how people of such criminal background are in the same cell, because they all seem to have escaped from the same cell, use the same rope. What are they doing? Terrorists, all sleeping in the same cell, plotting together. So there seems to be a problem, and I think it's time now that this purge has to continue. Okay. Because it's not just a purge of the prison system, it needs to be a purge of the entire security establishment, okay, from the police, GSU, everything. Okay. He needs to basically change how things are being run.
Yeah. Wamatangi, is this a system issue or is it a personnel issue? Because we've also seen people break out from cells, not just prison.
Yeah, I think it's both. Yeah. It is both system and also personnel. And as they say, I hear my colleague, should I still continue to call him a running?
Yes.
Why? You're not running?
Because you raised a serious issue which we will
get into that.
Yes. And so I want to know whether we are still running together. Yeah. But let me say good morning to our viewers. Yeah. And Trevor, I want to opine that I think it's a both systems and personal issue. One thing that we say all the time is that fish starts rotting from the head. Mm-hmm. I remember in our last discussion last week, we were speaking about the when you say that the buck stops here, if you are the head of an institution, then what does that imply? And if you look at the seriousness, and I know my running mate, as now we've agreed to continue that trend. Trevor, the seriousness of the matter, and most unfortunate, it happened at a time when we had a stark reminder of that seriousness in Kampala. You saw what happened. And if you remember, I think we forget too quickly. If you remember the state that this country was in when we had bombings in matatus. You remember there was a time it was a big issue to board a matatu to go to Githurai in my county. People were literally, some of them were walking because you couldn't find the courage to board a matatu. It would explode, Remember the explosions in shopping malls, leave alone even Westgate, in Eastleigh, where it's crowded. Remember, there was a time we had been warned by the police, I remember, secretly, that if you are in traffic jam, for example, on Mombasa Road, be on the lookout. Because there was that time suspected somebody could step out of a vehicle with a gun and start shooting you when you are dead in traffic. And so it was so scaring. We went through a cycle we don't want to ever remember when we mourned our young children in Garissa when they were murdered. I mean, so it's all a trail that we wanted to forget as quickly as possible. And then what I would want to say lastly is this. If you compare other countries and how they deal with terror suspects, sometimes I look at how George Bush was ridiculed and fought by even his own people because of the Guantanamo Bay detention camp that he had after 9/11 in the United States. But sometimes you want to ask yourself, Trevor, if you are in the same shoes, what would you do if that kind of thing happened when it is under your watch? I would not want to wish that to the former prison's boss, but it tells a big story that maybe downwards, that there has been so much laxity, there is so much compromise, and if you wait at the prison's gate today or tomorrow, this week, Trevor, you are likely to see a chicken thief who served 10 years, having completed his term leaving that jail. What about terror suspects? And remember, even when we were talking about the escape of these three, and I don't want to go into the graphic details, but I watched as in your news broadcast, Trevor, and they were saying that these guys scaled 3 walls, that they would jump from this one, they would use that and go to another wall, and go to another wall. All the time it takes to hack, those stones and get in through there. and I remember even in your narration, there was a point at which you are saying one of the prison warders, which actually is what happens in prison, came out and called names of terror suspects from the door. And one answers and he still continues to go away. Remember, just 3 weeks before, we had the other big story when there was this terror suspect who was released, the young man from Western. And the police were then hunting him down and blah, blah, blah. Then he vanished after he'd been released from the same prison. And so you want to ask yourself, is there a linkage? Have terrorists then found their way into those that prison and formed cells there with the police themselves, such that they would be perpetrating these kind of things? And so I think, we would not want to wish any man who served in a career like that to live with that kind of disgrace from his position. But it is important for people who have been given responsibility to know that it is not just a matter of showing uniform and batons and what have you and marching through. You have got to make sure that once you're given that responsibility, it is carried out and you live to the expectations of the job.
All right. Dr. Alwali, is this purge justified?
I would like to congratulate the president for the action that he has taken. And I know he knows that these are the consequences of corruption. The corruption that exists, not just in the prison, but in the entire security system, is responsible for this kind of lapses. having done this, I wonder what he's thinking about the head of the NIS. I don't know what the president is thinking about Matiang'i. I don't know what he's thinking about Kibicho. Because these three people, they are busy doing politics. The NIS prefers to follow telephone conversations of politicians with their members of their families and other contacts, rather than deal with serious security issues like what we've just witnessed in Uganda. The Matiang'i and Kibicho, the same. They never run short of words, short of time to talk politics when the real work to be done is this. Maybe the president should consider getting rid of these three people as a clear warning that the security of the nation is greater than all of them. In fact, all of us. Lastly, but not least, what are Kenyans saying when we say, is it a system issue? What are they saying about the actual police, the actual prison officers? These are not just ordinary civil servants. They are people who work under strict code of conduct. And therefore, it is very difficult for a decision to be acted on in the police, in the prisons, unless a command has been released. This therefore points to the fact that right from the top, Ogallo, who was sacked, up to the last prison warder, the whole system is rotten. It requires for an overhaul.
Yeah.
It requires for retraining of police officers and of prison officers. It calls for better vetting on who should be promoted in the police force, who should be promoted in the prison force, because these things due to corruption, people are promoted even when they are inefficient. Now, let me just say one last thing about terrorists. The reason why terrorists are the ones who are able not to break out of prison, this was not a prison break. This was an inside job where these people bought their freedom. The reason why they're able to do it, it is because terrorists have access to a lot of money. So the people outside then bring money, they pay these police officers, they pay these prison officers, and these people just walk out of cell. So it's more complex. I would be happy if I saw action taken against NIS, action against Matiang'i, action against Kibicho, so that we send a clear message.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me actually, even as we talk about the actions that are being taken, there's this aspect that we really, as a country, have to start, or this issue that we really need to look to discuss, and that's the issue of bribery. I was in the United States just a few weeks ago, and I don't say. I was in Boston, and a friend of mine told me, let us meet at 369 Huntington Avenue, Boston, at a cafe, called Tete Cafe outside Northeastern University. And I got from my hotel, passed by a mall, and I walked leisurely all the way to this cafe. I met this special friend, and we sat down, and you could see the trains moving. There was a blue line, the orange line, and people are seated. And as I sat there, I realized that since I got into the US, I had not entered into any shopping mall or into any shop or train or any place where I needed to be frisked or my bag to be checked. This is the United States of America, which is quote unquote supposed to be the one targeted by terrorists. But at no point in the US do you go to any hotel in New York City or anywhere in the US where your goods go through security, where your bag is looked at by security. You just walk in and walk out. Any shopping mall, nobody looks at you. Why? Because there is a culture whereby the security services perform. And here, we've gone into a culture where bribery is the order of the day. You can bribe. When I was government spokesperson, a diplomat came to talk to me. No, I was actually governor. Just I was governor the other day. A diplomat came to talk to me about a bomb that was manufactured outside Kenya, northern Kenya, Somali, and it was transported in a vehicle, and that vehicle left Mandera, came all the way to Garissa, various checkpoints, came to Machakos County, passed by Matu, various checkpoints, all the way to Thika, took Thika Highway, various checkpoints, turned into Mombasa Road, various checkpoints, at the river, all the way Kibwezi, all the way to Mombasa. And the vehicle was apprehended in Mombasa because one of the officers, it was now going somewhere, one of the officers, I think they ran out of money to bribe the officers. And so the vehicle was taken and was parked outside State House, Mombasa, by the police, unknowingly, outside State House, Mombasa, at Central Police Station in Mombasa, with a bomb big enough to destroy basically a quarter of Mombasa. That bomb had traveled all the way from Mandera to Mombasa using our highways with all the different police checks. So, and it's because we have a culture. Mkubwa, habari yako, mzuri, unakona njaa, shika kitu kidogo. Asante sana, wewe ni boss, unapigiwa salute, and you are a terrorist. You go to a shopping mall, all these security guys wanakuangalia nini, unawapatia shilingi 5, shilingi 20, unapita. 50, habari ya mtoto, shika 1000. I've seen it even at our airports. You go to the airport, the first day, hawa jamaa wa airport wanakuuliza, unatuacha hivyo bana, unatuacha hivyo. Leo, huyu mtu atakuja hapa atampatia shilingi 50, tomorrow 100, 1000. The other day, he'll just be waved through. He'll just be waved through carrying a bomb to blow up an aeroplane. So we've got a culture of people getting handouts and bribing people in places, in terms who are in charge of security, that is actually causing the problem that we are facing right now in this country.
Yeah.
So whatever happened in the prison break happened because of this culture of bribery, whereby you are a government official, you are a security official, but you're okay being given 100, 200 shillings. You should never accept money as a police officer, even as a gift from anyone. As a security officer, you shouldn't accept gifts.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would be in trouble. But, you know, it's sad that I can go to a country that has been attacked by terrorists, a country that is usually in high alert, and I can walk to 369 Huntington Avenue to meet my special friend, and I don't have to worry about anything, because no police officer in the United States will take a bribe. And I told the joke the other day, say that in the United States, if you're stopped by the police and you reach inside your jacket, they shoot you. But in Kenya, if you're stopped by a police officer and you reach into a jacket, they start smiling, because they think unawapatia kitu kidogo. They don't think you're pulling out a gun. So it's that culture that we realize that the problems that we are facing are actually self-made.
Yeah. Speaking of culture,
actually, Trevor, if you
and I wanted to rope in also the front page of the Standard, so that we move a bit quick.
I just wanted to agree with what Governor has said, because indeed you notice that if you go to the UK, police don't carry guns. No police officer carries a gun in the UK. They walk like this with a baton all over. And you can imagine the level of security that is required in the UK. And the reason why they don't carry guns is they have perfected their security system, but also ingrained responsibility in citizens, such that you find that if you try to do anything that will endanger the lives of the people of the UK, the first person to respond and tell on you will be the waiter serving you, not even a police officer, if they notice anything suspicious. It is your neighbor. That is what you find when you're in the UK and in the US, as you were saying. I mean, citizens themselves are the most vigilant police, because if somebody sees you doing things that are suspicious through their window, they'll call the police immediately and say that this is what I suspect. And then maybe I just want to agree also with what Senator Boni was saying, that you know, we also need to be aware about the financial might of the terrorism networks. They are financially mighty, and they fundraise. They have got stockpiles of cash to buy people. So I believe, you know, the example we have, my running mate in Eastleigh, you can walk to many places in Eastleigh, knock with 1,000 bob and buy a pistol. and it's not a big deal. I mean, actually, in Italy, as they say, you just need to define the type of gun you want. If it is an MI6, if you want an AK-47, and they're all there in the marketplace. You know, really. I mean, because that's the reality. Do you remember there was a time there was a fire in Italy in one of the shopping malls? It was a joke doing rounds in social media. They did not need police to come and protect them. When the fire gutted the shopping mall, guys emerged from the mall with guns to protect themselves from looters. And they kept vigil through the whole night. And I mean, that's the kind of, you know, that's why we are with this laxity and the enmeshing of it with corruption, such that it has compromised our security so much. And I believe action is not only due, but overdue. So what the president did is commendable.
All right.